Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Grade 11 webinar. Let's allow a little time for everyone to sign in. About 2 minutes, then we will start. Hello, everyone. I am here. I'm just going to wait for 1 minute for everyone to log in. Right. Once again, good morning to everybody. Welcome to the Grade 11s for this English Home Language webinar. Welcome to this session. I would just like to see that you know what the panel on the right-hand side means. Put up your hands. You will see a little hand at the bottom. Please put up your hands. Let me see if you have found it. Right, it seems as if most, if not everybody, has found that. Let's carry on with the webinar. My name is Wendy Peppler. I'm Chief Education Specialist for English Home Language. Before we begin this webinar, let's cover some of the basics. If you are struggling to hear me, make sure your audio is on and your sound volume is turned up. You will automatically be muted when joining the session. Should you have any questions, you can ask your question in the question box. I will attend to this at the end of the session. To raise your hand, click the icon on your dashboard below on your right. We have tested that and I've noticed that you have found it. At the end of the session, you will be able to download this presentation and additional resources in the handout box below on your right. You will also find all this information in the question box below or on your right. Remember at the end to send us your questions. These webinar slides will also be made available on YouTube at https://www.youtube.com channel UC1HIOBORSSDT17PI9KXSQG. I will give you a few minutes to write this down so that you can access it. Right, let's carry on. This is one of the poems for term 2, grade 11. The poem we are going to do now can be found in Impact Study Guide, page 101. If we look at the top title of this poem, Their Lonely Betters, written by W.H. Auden, it sort of gives you an idea that there is some sense of loneliness in this poem. Now, a bit of background of Auden. Many of Auden's poems use a kind of gentle humor in their content. When I read the poem to you, I would like you to listen carefully for humor. One observes the employment of irony as well as a sort of quirky, whimsical exploitation of absurd contradictions. Auden was gay and yearned for a long-term, committed, monogamous relationship. As a result, loneliness is a concern that makes regular appearances in his poems. As you will also notice in this poem when we read it, there is a sense of loneliness. Auden often uses animals and plants as mechanisms to reflect human nature in a device that constructs positives out of negatives. And I would like you to listen for this as well. Let's carry on. I'm going to read it to you first. They're lonely betters. As I listened from a beach chair in the shade to all the noises that my garden made, it seemed to me only proper that word should be withheld from vegetables and birds. At this point, I would like you to note the rhyme pattern. Shade. Oopsie. Shade rhymes with maid. Word rhymes with bird. AABB. You will note this rhyme scheme throughout the poem. Let's carry on. A robin with no Christian name ran through the robin anthem, which was all it knew, and rustling flowers for some third party waited to say which pairs, if any, should get mated. Not one of them was capable of lying. There was not one which knew that it was dying, or could have, with a rhythm or a rhyme, assumed responsibility for time. Let them leave language to their lonely betters, who count some days and long for certain letters. We too make noises when we laugh or weep. Words are for those with promises to keep. Starting with the structure, you would have noted that this is a very short poem. It is actually a lyric, which consists of only 4 stanzas. The rhyme scheme, as you noted in the first stanza, AABB, continues throughout. CC, DD, EE, FF, GG, HH. The theme. This poem has a few themes, one of being words. Words spoken by humans, not spoken by animals and plants. The poet differentiates the vocalization of animals from that of humans. In other words, he contrasts it, or he separates it, what is spoken vocally by animals and what is spoken vocally by humans. You will find a contrast between the simplicity of the natural world and the complexity of the human one. Now let's start looking at stanza 1. As I listened, the I in as I listened shows that the poet is speaking himself. It is in the first person. He is the narrator of the poem. It is a personal narration. Should be withheld from vegetables and birds. Here we find the first gentle humor in the poem. The comical absurdity that vegetables might be able to speak. As I listened, should be withheld from vegetables and birds. Stanza 2. A robin with no Christian name. Other than humans, the birds do not have their own Christian names or in retrospect, the whole animal nature does not have Christian names. There's no self-defining naming word for itself as humans do. This suggests it has no ego. The robin anthem. Now we find we've got the words Christian and anthem, neither of which the robin or any other animal has. An anthem is a song of praise, or we have our national our national anthem, which is a song of praise to our country, or it could be a song of praise to the Lord. The robin anthem, which was all it knew. The robin is singing a song of praise, something sacred. This is all it knows. It is completely uncomplicated and consistent. If you walk in nature, you will be able to, if you know birds, identify when a robin is singing or where any other bird is singing. And rustling flowers for some third party waited. Flowers are being personified here. They are given the human quality of waiting, possibly waiting for a bird or a bee to visit it. There's a connection between plants and animals. In this poem, in other words, in this line, the connection is established between plants and animals. They are dependent on each other. Stanza 3. Not one of them was capable of lying. Robins, animals, plants, they cannot lie. They do not deceive and thus do not hurt others as humans do. Here we might start picking up the loneliness, the sadness of this poet. Maybe in the past he has been hurt, he has been deceived. There was not one which knew that it was dying. Here we have a contrast between animals and humans. Humans are conscious of the ever-looming presence of death, where animals do not know this, or we don't think that they know this, and they are certainly not concentrating on this. Or could have, with a rhythm or a rhyme, assumed responsibility for time. The poem presumes that he controls time, in this sense, rhythmical time, but also more broadly that he can report on his time truthfully in his words. Again, contra to what animals can do. Now let's look at stanza 4. Here we find a change of tone. The emphasis shifts from the indirect consideration of humans through animals and plants to the direct consideration of nature of human beings. This final stanza is far more intense and hints at a personal heartache. Let them leave language to their lonely betters. Here he is saying, leave the language. Language sets man apart. He would rather not hear the words. They're lonely. Instead of language bringing people together, it alienates them from each other, and they are alone. Who counts some days? This is a suggestion of waiting for something in vain. Man's awareness of time, creeping mortality. Lonely. He's counting the days. Long for certain letters. It's aching sadness. He's longing for written words, maybe from a particular person who has disappointed him. Again, we can really feel this loneliness that he has. We too make noises when we laugh or weep. Here he is pointing to the animals and the birds again, because the birds make sounds. They sing anthems. But here he is expressing or saying that we express our emotions without the use of words. For instance, by laughing or crying, showing happiness or sadness. Words are for those with promises to keep. Here we find a tone of bitterness. He says that language binds a man to truth, as this is the only way he can interact with others. In other words, if we speak words, we must be sincere about them and keep our promises. This is the end of the poem. So at this point, if you have any questions, we can have a look at them. We have got enough time for that. I see somebody said they can't hear us. Here is a question. Will this poem be mandatory for us to learn for the upcoming exams? These poems are for impact learners. I know each school, grade 10, 11, do their own poems. So this is not necessarily mandatory for us if you are not an impact learner. Okay, here is a question that asked for various types of questions that can be asked. You can say, for instance, what idea comes to the poet in stanza 1 and how does it occur to him? Where we would say the poet gets the idea that he is glad that animals and plants can't use words to speak, that it might be sad. Let's look at this question. We can't hear you. I don't know what to say there. Ma'am, how do I put the volume louder? You would have to put your volume louder on your desktop itself, on your laptop. Is this the poem that is going to be in the June exam? Not necessarily. As you know, you have studied quite a few poems. All your poems studied for term 1 and 2 will be included in the exams. Is this poem, again, is this poem going to be in the June exam? Not necessarily. Is this poem compulsory for an impact learner like myself? Yes, indeed. Is the poet trying to refer sorry, I've lost this. Is this poem going to be is this poem compulsory? Is the poet trying to refer animals to humans? As myself, is the poet trying to refer animals to humans? As myself? In this sense, he is referring to words. In other words, that animals possibly can't hurt with words, where we as humans can hurt with words. This is also showing his longing and his loneliness. To humans with the concept of both having emotions. Humans have emotions, animals can't show their emotions. You raise your hand by clicking on the right-hand toolbar at the bottom. Click to see. I see Sarah Carter has got her hand raised. I will unmute her, then she can ask her question. Sarah, are you there? Hello, Sarah. I can't hear you. Okay, I see that it's your question. Is this poem mandatory for us to learn for the upcoming exams? You'd have to study it if you, pardon? Sorry, I couldn't hear Sarah at all. Olga, I'm going to unmute you, then you can ask your question. Sorry, I can't get it unmuted. Is the poet lonely because he was gay before it was socially accepted? Is this why he could have been so lonely? Not necessarily. It was just that he felt he couldn't have a normal relationship, monogamous relationship with everybody, and that made him feel lonely. I don't think it has anything to do with time. Is the poet trying to refer animals to humans with the concept of both having emotions? I think it is more a case of that the birds can only make sounds and that it doesn't matter what their mood is, their sound, their song, they will always be the same, as it doesn't change. How can we say if a stanza is in the first or second person? Very good question. If it is in the first person, it is I, it is the person speaking himself. In other words, in this case, the poet speaking himself. If it is in the second person, it is a story that is being related, and you will heard it, he will pick it up by he or she or they, and not, you will pick it up that it is not the poet speaking directly. How does the title link with the poem? He's lonely, or they're lonely betters. I think in a case like this, they're lonely, it's indicating that he is lonely. Betters, that it might be, if we look at the first three stanzas, that he finds it better to be sitting in nature and listening to the birds and the animals and experiencing nature rather than hearing the words of people that possibly hurt him. Our time has now run out, and I will end this session. Thank you for the questions, and please continue and send any more questions. We will get back to them. Remember now to download your the presentation on the right-hand side. The webinar will stay open for a few minutes for you to download. Thank you very much, and goodbye.